You're finally awake.
The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. It's a pretty new game that all the cool kids are talking about these days. Right? Being that this is the first video on this channel, I wanted to make something big. Something original. Let's kick things off by helping the Dragonborn reach his maximum potential. Now, there have been plenty of guides and such detailing much more effective means to reach a similar result, and the purpose of this video isn't to replace them. This channel also isn't going to be solely dedicated to Skyrim either. Rather, I simply want to show what I was able to discover by playing the game without the use of console commands or stash exploits or mods or any other type of glitches or unintended game features. I do have a couple of mods installed, but they are exclusively visual alterations. Everything I do in this video can be recreated in the original base game. Think of this as an uninformed player passing down hard-earned wisdom to help others from wasting hours doing ineffective work. I would have saved myself a ton of grief if I had known this information prior to taking on this challenge. And now, let's take the dive into the tips and tricks that I discovered in order to survive the harshest tundra of Tamriel. The first tip I can provide is to avoid overleveling. Skyrim is not like typical RPGs like Pokemon or Dark Souls, where each entity is set in power level, allowing you to farm levels in a prior area and eventually overpower them by sheer numerical value. In Skyrim, the enemies power up at the same rate that you do, regardless of what skill you are leveling. Simply put, if you start with leveling your character by making purchases and building houses, you're going to have a hard time getting through the dungeons later on. If that's your plan, or you want a more passive character for your role-playing, that's perfectly fine. Just keep this tip in mind regardless, so that you aren't caught unawares if an arrow takes you out by the patella. Increasing the amount of experience received per action makes a really big difference due to the sheer quantity of experience needed to reach level 100 in any given skill. The Guardian Stones, found almost immediately after escaping Helgen, granted 20% boost in leveling for a class of skills of your choice, those being Warrior, Thief, and Mage. If you are also willing to go off on a relatively lengthy quest, you can receive this rare item called the Ethereum Crown. This headpiece will store the effect of a stone while wearing it, allowing two effects to be active instead of just one. My recommendation would be to activate the Lover Stone to store into the crown, and then to travel to the Guardian Stones whenever you are focusing on a particular set of skills. That way, the Dragonborn maintains a 35% boost to whatever class of skills he practices. If I had known about this from the start, I likely would have saved myself at least a few dozen hours. Assuming that you plan on continuing to play the game after leveling up your skills, I would highly recommend only reaching about level 90 or so in your dedicated leveling sessions. Those last 10 levels are by far the longest, and will result in saving a lot of time overall. You also get the added benefit of not feeling pressured to play a certain way based on what skills you do or don't have room to grow in. For most spells, though not all of them, you gain experience from them only when you cast them in the presence of enemies, or in this case, affected allies. For the Sneaky Mage playstyle, that means the silent casting perk in the illusion skill tree becomes almost a necessity, as casting spells can alert others of your presence. Also keep in mind that the difficulty of the spell also increases the amount of experience you gain for casting it. Fire magic lowers defense and health, so it is perfect for mowing down weak enemies and for damage phases against bosses. Ice magic drains stamina, so it's very useful against warriors who love to spend their strength swinging massive metal objects into your flesh. Lightning damage drains magicka, so it can quite easily neutralize mages. Also, mages tend to cast a spell to raise their defenses once they detect a threat, so catching them unaware will be a more effective means of disposing of them. If you know that a spell or a shout is going to be cast, you can respond with a ward that will allow you to negate a significant amount of the spell's effects. With these tips in mind, I'll share with you the processes I discovered for combining different skills to level them simultaneously. This is probably the easiest part of the process. All that these skills require is to take damage while wearing the appropriate armor, or while blocking with either a two-handed weapon or a shield. There are plenty of people who would be more than happy to help you in that venture. There's trolls, saber cats, bears, and giants, just to name a few. One of the advantages to having a high defense is the opportunity to level up your offensive skills more easily. Enemies can essentially become trainers available to help you level your weapon skills. Like we covered before, over-leveling will generate more powerful enemies. However, if you start off with the defensive abilities, you can lower the risk of losing progress via death. In reality, you can save your progress before every encounter and reload it until you emerge victorious, but if you forget to save while you are doing some heavy leveling, all that progress will be instantly lost. Once you become sick of being pushed around and finish extracting the projectiles from your ACL, you may be interested in learning how to fight back. There are two classes that I have invented for pulling this off effectively in order to level your skills simultaneously. But first, a note on the Conjuration School of Magic. There are 3 spells that are nearly essential for the all-around playstyle we're going for in this video. Those are the Bound Sword, Bound Bow, and Bound Battle Axe. Each of these spells level up your Conjuration when cast in the presence of enemies, but when used to fight, they level up your one-handed archery and two-handed respectively. You can even use the Bound Battle Axe to level your block skill. Not only do you get the benefits of using multiple skills, but you also get the added benefit of having less items in your inventory to manage and more carry weight for other items. The Spell Sword is the more versatile of the two classes, due to the offhand being able to quickly swap between any number of spells, thus allowing you to improve your Restoration, Conjuration, Destruction, or one-handed along with your one-handed in your main hand. Generally, you're going to be using the offhand to cast a Destruction type spell to weaken the opponent, and then finish them off with your sword once you close it. There are types of enemies that are resistant to certain types of magic, so having the Bound Sword and a variety of spells will also help you deal with these or any other unexpected variables. Alternatively, you can cast a ward in your offhand that will neutralize a significant portion of magics, allowing you to close in defensively. This class takes a significant toll on your magicka usage during combat, making regeneration type enchantments, like found on most mage robes, the ideal equipment for this playstyle. In comparison to the Spell Sword, the Battle Mage lacks versatility and speed, but makes up for it with raw power and simplicity. All that is required for this class are 2 spells, Bound Bow and Bound Battle Axe. Just like the Spell Sword class, ranged and melee options are covered, but you have to commit to them somewhat more because each option uses both hands. To compensate for this, you can act as a stealth archer while using the Bound Bow, leveling your Conjuration, Illusion, Sneak, and Archery simultaneously. Then, if or when you get discovered, you can quickly hot swap to an armor spell, then summon your Battle Axe, leveling your Alteration, Two-Handed, Block, and Conjuration. With the addition of using the Block skill, you become a hard-to-kill heavy hitter. This class uses larger amounts of magicka, but doesn't require you to regenerate magicka once in combat, therefore making it ideal to use with enchantments that raise your health, stamina, and magicka maximums, as well as stamina regeneration, as found on many pre-enchanted armors available at most blacksmiths. With the minimizing of risks and other various setbacks in place, we can start exploring to our heart's content. We're now going to be slithering our way through the world using our more subtle methods to acquire every single septum we can snatch with our floundering phalanges. Though the most efficient way to level up your sneak skill is to deal damage undetected, we'll have plenty of opportunities to finish leveling up sneak later. To start with, we can cast Muffle once we get near enemies to level up our illusion skill, in order to aid our attempts to remain undetected. While we are sneaking around, we can take the opportunity to pick locks and pick pockets. I highly recommend only practicing these 2 skills in dungeons and other places with enemies, in order to prevent getting caught by citizens and ending up on the wrong side of the law. Unless you are looking for the risk, going to jail actually costs unspent experience from all of your skills. This works great for bandit hideouts and hostile mage studies, but what about tombs or crypts? Rather than pickpocketing the Draugr, you can use the opportunity to cast Repel Undead spells. That way, they won't bother you if you get caught sneaking around. The game won't let you pickpocket them anyhow. Restoration levels up much more quickly using the Draugr repellent magic instead of the more obvious route of taking damage and healing yourself, or using wards to block spells or dragon halitosis. Pickpocketing and lockpicking were the two skills that took me by far the most amount of time to level up. Dwemer Ruins had plenty of good locks to pick, but joining the Thieves Guild in Riften gives you plenty more opportunities to finish leveling up the rest of the way. Plenty of locks to pick around them, and the members of the guild won't put a bounty on your head if they catch you emptying your inventory in their back pocket. We're now going to be spending all that money we've been scraping together and turning it into experience and a lot more money. In order to do this, we're essentially going to develop the ultimate trading route, and it all starts with a pile of rocks. You can travel around Markarth and Falkreath to mine iron and silver yourself for free, as well as purchase iron and silver ore from any blacksmiths you come across. Aside from pocket change, a few herbs, and these rocks, all you need is the transmute spell and the various crafting stations found in every hold and most villages. Using the transmute spell allows you to transform iron and silver ores into gold ore. Because the transmute spell is of a high difficulty, this skill will level up quite efficiently. Next, we'll take the gold ore to the smelter and turn it into gold bars, and then to the forge to turn the gold bars into gold rings. Smithing experience is affected significantly by the monetary value of the items you craft, and will likewise grant you a steady stream of levels. Despite the efficiency of these methods, it is highly likely you won't have all the materials necessary to reach 100 in alteration and smithing in a timely manner. That's where the rest of this process comes into play. If you're not interested in leveling your enchanting or alchemy, then all you need to do to repeat this process is to travel around the various holds and sell the rings you've been making for more ores to purchase, transmute, smith, and resell. Congratulations, you are now a jewelry factory. But in order to be even more efficient, as well as level enchanting and alchemy, we're going to become a magic item store and a potion brewery as well. A good portion of the plants and non-human enemies in this world have harvestable alchemy ingredients, so be sure to stash as much of those as conceivably possible. We're going to be using those now. Slam your hands down onto an alembic and bake those herbs into beverages of various purposes. I personally really enjoy blindly combining ingredients to discover their uses, but if you want to be more efficient, then I would recommend following the link I put in the description that shows you what each ingredient does. Either way, remember that the monetary value of each concoction is the major factor in the experience gained from it. Alchemy is probably the most efficient way to generate money in this game, figuring that all you need to make hundreds of septums is some wheat, which you can harvest for free at any farm, some canis root, also free and bountiful in the plains directly east of Whiterun, and the least important toe of a giant, which can be free if you ask him politely enough. With potions and rings, you should be generating all the money you need in order to buy more ores and ingredients for your growing mega corporation. Last but not least, we need some soul gems. This part is simple enough. You use an enchanting table to slam some fresh rock candy and your handcrafted pile of wedding bands into a profitable product. Of course, there are two little snags you need to keep in mind. First, make sure you find some enchanted items to sacrifice to the Daedric Prince of Filthy Lucre in order to learn different types of enchantments. Some are more money than others, but the experience gained is based on the serving sizes of the crystals rather than the monetary value of the end result, unlike smithing and alchemy. The other snag is that you have to make sure you have charged gems, not just any stones will do. So, make sure you go to the wizards and not some filthy dealer in the alleyway. The real mages are specially trained at the college to concoct quality products. Alternatively, there's also this perk that you can use that turns your bound weapons into soul-sucking vacuums, because the only way to convert low-quality ring pops into usable materials is by draining the life forces of the weak. Congratulations! If you followed the steps that I gave you, you have become the most powerful entity in the country of Skyrim. Your physical, mental, and magical powers are entirely unmatched, enabling you to end wars and prevent the prophesied demise of all reality. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a good day.